Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Metalheads Manifesto. My name is Kai. I'm here with Makai again, and we're going to be. What was it we was talking about this week again? I can't remember.
We were talking about heroes and villains, I'm pretty sure. I don't know where, how, when, if it's anime, if it's Marvel, if it's DC, I have no idea. But
So I can talk about wrestling this time.
I mean, you totally can talk about wrestling, whichever way you want to go.
So, what about heroes and villains specifically? Is it what we like about them? What makes them good? What makes them bad? Depending on what it is, either way, or
I
what
was
we look
thinking,
for in them.
I was thinking, just go deep dive into them. Just go like, say, if you go into a villain, kind of like pick them apart a little bit, see what makes them tick. You know, like their like insecurities, their weaknesses, their like superpowers, and that doesn't have to mean superpowers. Like their like psychological superpowers and stuff like that.
All right, all right. If you want to go with that route, then I guess we can start in the comic book world.
Hmm?
Let's let me see. Yeah, let's not be cliche here if we can.
It's kind of hard for comic books. I'm not gonna lie.
I know, but you know the first one people are going to expect us to go
Yeah,
to
Joker. I
probably.
don't like Joker probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Joker, or Batman.
Or Harley.
So, so let's go with Carnage.
Carnage. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So Cletus Cassidy, an orphan when he was a child, killed his grandmother.
Hmm.
Very deranged, psychopathic dude. Depending on which origin you go with,
Hmm.
um, got his power because he just wanted to be like Eddie at one point in time. But what do you think that as a villain, Carnage is, let's say, better than Venom that literally precedes him? Let's just use it that way. That's literally the one and the two there, Venom and Carnage.
I mean, I guess it would depend because, as an example, Venom was very much a bad guy to begin with. Like, Venom's changed a lot over, his run. Like, he's not, it depends on who he's with. So I would say the same would be true of Carnage as well. I wouldn't say Carnage himself would be a bad guy. I'd say the person who he's inhabiting would be bad, if that makes sense.
I don't know because there was an episode way back when, if you followed the '90s Spider-Man. I don't know how much of that y'all got over there, but over here we had a '90s animated Spider-Man cartoon to
Hmm.
where when they did this Spider-Verse part of that, where there was a Peter Parker that was Carnage. The hell was that? I think there's a moth in here. Anyway, um, there was a Spider-Man version of Carnage that was no different than Cassidy.
Oh, that's interesting.
So the
So Carnage himself is basically a bad person, is what you say.
yeah, the symbiote's I'm not just seeing shit, am I?
No, I
That
see
was
it
a
too.
fucking moth.
Yeah, I literally see it as
Okay,
well.
okay.
Fun.
It's 'cause it got a fucking light on
Yep.
now, and then the moth will come. We're not talking about Mothman today, okay? I don't think. I don't even think that's in a comic book.
And not even Kite Man, I know. Speaking of.
But, um But yeah, Cassidy is the only one though that has bonded with the symbiote so perfectly to where he refers to himself as I as Carnage instead of we like Eddie does with Venom. There's no individuality. Their minds are linked so well that Carnage is actually even bonded with Cassidy's blood to where even if you take the suit away from him, it will regrow in him eventually until he's dead. But yeah, it's just from everything I've never seen a good variant of Carnage
I
ever.
mean,
Like,
it could happen. I mean, I guess like if it's like Carnage himself is like wants to be terrible. Because like Venom, like as an example, if you go to Venom, Venom wasn't. He can be like an evil like person or thing like, but
mhm.
at the same time, he can also do good things. Like I know he doesn't. Like I know the variant of good isn't good, but you know what I mean. Like he could be an anti-hero. Should we say?
Yeah, that's generally where Venom falls, especially after he leaves being part of Spider-Man's main continuity when he gets to his own specifically. Um, and even more so when we get to anti-Venom. I don't know if you're familiar with anti-Venom or not,
No, not yet.
but excuse me. But as far as the uh hero thing goes, he wasn't even really a good hero thing when it was the symbiote costume for Spider-Man either. Like
No.
the fuckery that they had where the symbiote wanted him to do one thing and Peter wanted to do another,
Mhm.
and that whole thing was
I guess that would go towards the bonding because, like, you know how you said that Carnage has that perfect bond. I guess Venom also
yeah.
needs that perfect bond too because he can't have somebody too good. You know, somebody wants to do too
Mhm.
much of the right thing because it wouldn't be like towards Venom's like ego. Like Venom's ego
Right.
has to be quelled as much as anything else. I would say.
Now, just a fun fact of trivia here when it comes to Venom. According to the planet they come from, Venom's actually considered a anomaly to its kind. It's insane because it actually tries to help its host instead of just taking it over completely. The way that they're written is they're supposed to just they are symbiotes, but they're not really symbiotic in the way they function.
They're like
They're more
parasitic.
parasitic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that could also play into why Carnage and Cassidy are that way because they're both deranged as all hell.
I mean, I wouldn't say strange. I would say most symbiotes are born as a virus. They're not really born to be in league with people. They're born to take over.
Yeah. Yeah,
In that
that's a good
sense,
way to look at it.
so like as you say, like Venom is the anomaly. He's like the opposite of everything of his race. He's like what Goku is to Vegeta, if that makes sense. You know, in the very
Yes.
beginning of
Yeah, that
DBZ.
is I mean, that is a good analogy to put. That is a very good one. But in that same case, that makes, Carnage literally the Frieza, though, of that deal
It
too,
depends
when it comes to those 2.
would there be a hierarchy of like symbiotes? Would there be one that's like a higher form tier? Because like Frieza would say be the most powerful of his race as an example. So.
Well, the most powerful symbiote that we've had outside of their god, which I can't remember his name right off, it starts with a K, though, um, but outside of that is Toxin, which is a, uh, 3rd generation symbiote that was made from Carnage, so it's like a grandchild of Venom. So that's technically one of the most powerful ones that they've had that's been on Earth before they started expanding further.
Makes sense.
But
So, question
it
then,
seems like they
like
go ahead. Go ahead.
before we do move on, or move more into it, would that make Carnage inherently good or inherently bad? Because in his mind, he's born to be a parasite. You know, he's born to spread. If that makes sense. Like, you know, he's born to take over, and like I know we see it one way, but like you know, from their point of view, what would you say?
I would I would say that they would see Venom as a villain as
Hmm.
far as the symbiote race goes
Mhm.
because it's not with I mean, because good and evil, as always, with a lot of the things in this conversation, unless it's just obvious, is a matter of perspective based on the society that we're talking about. So yeah, I'd say that Carnage would be technically a hero or at minimum anti-hero to his own kind. Granted, he's never teamed up with Spider-Man ever before. He's never done anything that's been outside of the rogue gallery for Spider-Man, but it almost always required Spider-Man's never beat Carnage one-on-one either. It always usually took Venom or some other assembly or of other people to do that.
That would make sense considering how powerful the symbiotes actually are. Like if you think about it,
Mhm,
there's no way, like unless you have like a Superman or something to that degree, that level,
mhm,
it would be very difficult to beat. Like Spider-Man's strong, don't get me wrong. Like Spider-Man, like literal strength is strong, but the
mhm.
symbiotes enhance everything they touch.
Now now that we're talking about that too, that reminds me of another comics session that or series that they did where Doc Ock got control over Peter Parker's body. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've heard about this one or not. And he had gained an immense amount of respect for just how much restraint Parker puts himself through to not just outright kill people.
Oh yeah.
So, does that make Doc Ock better as a person coming to that, or
I mean, Doc
in
Ock
your
was like is Doc Ock's story still that like when the tentacles like attached to his body and they lost control of them, did they basically take over his mind? Like, is that like canon into the comic books as well?
He's had a couple origin stories with that, I believe, and I do not know which one's the accepted one, but that is one of them.
But say if we go for that one specifically, I would say it's not actually Dark Ark the Godless. I would say it's more the tentacles controlling through his body rather than that. So you can't really class it as a him being good or bad, as it's a machine controlling a human in a weird way.
Mhm. So, before we get too far off from him, when it comes to back to just finishing off Carnage, with all the stuff he's done, he's never won. Realistically, he's never won. He's always beaten. He gets advantages like most villains do in their arcs because that's what happens in any kind of media.
Yep.
But he's never had any notable wins, and he's even lost to Deadpool because there
Uh,
was a comic that him and Deadpool were the last two people on the planet, and they had to fight and kill each other.
Interesting. I mean, Deadpool's kind
So
of he's a meme unto himself, so it's kind of like a One
yeah.
Punch Man type thing, where it's just a meme and he just memes until he wins, basically.
So do you think, before we leave him behind too far, Carnage is a good villain? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why not?
Um, a good villain would mean he would have to win. I would say. I think that would be like a caveat. As like say, like there's been examples of where the Joker's won, where he's killed like Lois Lane, or made Superman kill Lois Lane in Injustice as an example, and
He
stuff like
killed
that.
Jason Todd.
And
Yeah.
he beat Jason Todd half to death and made him come back as Red Hood and so on and so on and so on. You get the idea.
Well, actually, he killed Jason.
Yeah.
They
Oh
brought
really?
him back with Lazarus Pit.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how he came
Yeah,
back. I just knew he
yeah.
came back in
He
some
he
way.
outright killed. He killed Jason.
Ah, I see. Okay. But yeah. Before we go too off topic, I would say to be a good villain, you'd have to win. The fact that Carnage has never actually really won. He's tried. He's extremely powerful. He has a lot of powers, but he's never smart enough to just fight Spider-Man one on one. But then again, because Spider-Man holds back so much, he would say if he wasn't holding back anymore, he would he win? Would he not? Would he not win?
I don't think we've seen what the true limits of the symbiote's power is, especially since Venom assimilated all of Spider-Man's abilities.
Hmm.
So it would stand to reason that maybe Carnage and the ones that follow after him can do the same. But Carnage does not have the web emulation that Venom does, so it's hard to say if he gained the same things that Venom did. So he may be physically weaker than Spider-Man due to the holding back, but I don't think we've ever seen what Carnage's limitation is either, so it might not be fair.
That's true. I mean, I would say it's a character that needs to be more fleshed out, maybe potentially.
If they could ever put him in something and not kill him in the same thing they put him in, I mean, they did that in the last Venom movie that they did
Yeah,
with him, and he just was there, and then he died, and then he was gone,
that's true. For such
and
like a character that you could put a lot of time into, they really do like underuse him for like what we've seen of him. It's why I don't know the character that well because in
Mhm.
most things I've seen him in, it's just like it's kind of like a passing thing. He's never like a true maniacal evil, if that makes sense. You know,
But Venom under
yeah, that like never goes away and just
yeah. But he's definitely, like you've already said, he's no Joker. I'll give my opinion on that. He's not the Joker. He has the same uh roundabout motivations the Joker does, just chaos and anarchy for chaos and anarchy's sake.
mhm.
But because a lot of people, when they compare the rogues galleries, they not only do they put Joker up against Green Goblin, but they also put him against Carnage for some reason or another. And Carnage just he is not an intelligent man. Cletus Cassidy's not intelligent in any way. He's just a serial killer that just so happened to be granted um, extraterrestrial power that he didn't need.
Makes
That's
sense.
basically all his thing is.
So if he bonded with somebody who was highly intelligent, would that change Carnage? Would that make him something
It
more?
probably it would probably change him because even when they were bonded with, if I remember right, when he was bonded with Peter Parker in that uh, one episode, that near the end of that one series, he still didn't refer to himself as an I. So maybe the intelligence differential is what makes that a thing. I don't know.
Or it's just because ideals, like how he's bonding with someone who's a serial killer. It kind of tells you like the kind of like ideal of what is perfection towards Carnage. He needs somebody
Mhm.
who's as deranged as he is. But then again, there are some highly intelligent serial killers. It just depends on which one you go for. So,
Yeah. Because, it's from the animated series, so people can take that for what they will, but one of the quotes from the animated series from back in the '90s about Carnage specifically that Peter gave was that something along the lines of Cassidy's insane mind is bonded with his symbiote to the point to where he refers to himself as I instead of we. So he literally referenced it was because Cassidy's insane, not because of any one other reason. So the symbiote may have actually had more control over Cassidy than Cassidy did himself too. That could be a thing.
that could totally be a thing. I think it's more like he just grew his bloodlust. I think, like instead of like he was already killing people, already that quite inclined. Just
Yeah.
it kind of made that to the nth degree at the end of the day. So,
hmm But I can agree with you that winning something would be a qualifier for what
hmm
one would need to probably consider a good villain. He's an interesting villain to watch, but you kind of already know what's going to happen when he's on the screen. Either there's going to be a massive team up. Because I don't even think they beat him in the Venom movie. I don't think Venom beat him by himself. I could be wrong, but I think there was a few other people involved in that, one way or another, retroactively or something.
I haven't seen it
But
yet, so I can't really tell you. But in terms of like from what you said, it sounds like they do need multiple people to actually beat him. But at the same time, like if you're smart enough, he'd
mhm,
be able to get round that. He'd like take the
yeah,
1-on-1 and just like obliterate everybody. But it's neither
yeah,
here nor there. That's just bad writing at the end of the day. Like that's just like the writers not wanting to give him a chance. I would say.
yeah. Because any major high tier DC hero, for example, except for maybe Batman,
No, Batman's got
could
that shit,
use.
man. Batman with prep time can beat anybody. I would say.
Well, that's what they say.
Man beat Darkseid. So come on, really.
Well, he did dodge the Omega Beam. He did do that.
hmm
He's the only mortal to ever dodge the Omega Beams. That is canon.
hmm And he
So,
and he outsmarted Darkseid. He pretended to be on his side and outsmarted him to the point where he had like got advantage of Darkseid. And Darkseid said, "Yep, you win. You know what? You outsmarted me. You win. It's fine." So
hmm
Batman's canonly his intelligence is like his biggest superpower.
hmm but any major Justice League member, even
Yeah,
if you want to throw Batman in there, could probably beat Carnage.
yeah. I would say like
Green,
even like I would say the Flash could easily do it. Martian Manhunter could easily do it. Obviously, like Green Lantern could easily do it. Like and then obviously you got the other ones as well. But no one can.
Wonder Woman.
That's like Wonder Woman's basically Superman, just a little bit twisted in terms of like power
hmm
scaling. So
And then technically, no one beats Superman unless the writer says that Superman loses.
pretty
I
much,
mean,
unless it's like a Red Sun type situation. But either way, is it a Red Sun? Whichever one. You know the one that makes him lose his powers.
yeah, I think it's red. But still, on a fair day, unless the writer just writes it, no one beats Superman. So,
Yeah, that's true. Technically, Superman generally has to beat himself. Like, if you think about it, in most cases where we've seen Superman lose, he beats himself. Like using Injustice as an example, the Joker gets Superman to kill Lois Lane, which breaks him and makes him turn into a villain. So,
yeah. And as funny as it is, are you referring to the comic portion of that or just the game of Injustice? Because that's actually a comic
um,
as well.
vice versa. I've seen the comic story of like the comic of it, and I've played part of the game. So,
Mhm.
mm.
But yeah, that was an okay story,
Yeah, there's
but it
also
it, it
like a
reached
TV show of it too. If you didn't know, like there's even like a little
I didn't
animated thing for Justice.
I didn't know there was
I th-
anime for it.
I'm pretty sure this. It's not as full on as the comic book.
I
I
mean,
think it ends weirdly compared to the comic book, but yeah.
mhm. But all that was a way for people to really get another Batman v Superman thing out of it, really, because that's what writers like to do with that a lot.
hmm
Just have Batman versus Superman
It feels kind of
for some
cliche
reason.
at this point. Like it's just and there were so many interesting DC villains that you could really use, but They seem to always be going back towards like old favorites for some reason.
I mean, if you're gonna do Batman versus Superman, you should just have him fight Bizarro all the time and just be done with it. I mean,
Mm.
because Bizarro isn't much different than Solomon Grundy in terms of intelligence, but actually Grundy might be smarter than Bizarro.
It's hard to say. I guess it depends on what day, where, what's happening, etc., etc., etc.
But he was born on a Monday. I don't remember the rest of it though.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, are we moving on from Carnage, or are we going
Yeah, we
somewhere
need
else?
to. I just wanted to get a finality on since we brought him up first of where he sat with us, and I don't think that he is a great villain for feats, but he is good for. He's not even a good foil for Spider-Man. He's more of a perfect foil for Venom,
Mhm.
more than Spider-Man. But um, so yeah, so far we both agree on one, and that's one I brought up.
Me,
So let's let you move. You move this to the next one. Let's see who you come up out here with,
me, man.
if
I
I
could
even
go
know.
cliche, and I could go with the Joker, which is what everybody expects from the first episode, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
we will
for the
get there.
first part of this, like, of like this discussion, because this is going to take more than one episode. We do know this, so
Yeah, I mean, you do know also that I mean, we're gonna get to the Joker eventually. It's just
eventually,
when.
but we're not
That's
going to start with him. I think starting with him would be better. I think we should go. I think we should do Harley rather than the Joker. I think Harley would be a good way to. It's still in that same. It's still in in that same universe, but it's still like, but it's not quite the
No, it's
Joker.
not. No, it's not the same universe 'cause, Carnage is Marvel and Harley's DC. It's a different comic book.
No, I mean in the same universe as the Joker. I mean,
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I got you. Different comparison. Yeah, I got you.
yeah,
So, Harley. Which
yeah.
version of Harley? Modern
Uh,
Harley or what or old Harley?
I would say go through all of it. Why not? We may as well deep dive into it. It's because seeing as we're already like going into it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you were well aware when it comes to Harley. Harley started out as nothing more than a side character in the '90s Batman animated series. That's where
Yep.
she got her start, and that's
Yeah.
what she was brought in for,
Hmm.
to play
Pretty
a
much.
character in that. And, since then, it's just been for her always sidekick stuff all the way up until meeting Ivy,
Hmm.
almost all the time, no matter what iteration it is. It's sidekick to the Joker until she meets up with Ivy, with the exception of the Arkham games, because they didn't go that route in the Arkham games. They never really crossed paths in those. At least they hadn't yet, if they're ever going to. Um, so I guess we have to look at Harley from an anti-hero perspective almost, if we look at her from all of her life and
Well, if
all the way
you,
around. 'Cause
well, I guess it depends because, like, yes, she was a sidekick, but then again, she also had like a lot of like she's like a psychologist, and like, and as a person, like before she
oh
got
yeah,
dropped in the same acid as the Joker did, and so on and such forth. Like, so she can psychologically twist a lot of things. I would say.
yeah. She is probably just as smart as the Joker, at least I would think.
I'd say so. I mean, like the Joker's very manipulative. I think the manipulative side of him is kind of what makes Harley interesting, because like Harley
It's a
and that relationship is never about the love angle, because it's not really love. It's more where she's obsessed and he takes advantage of that and knows how to slightly tug on those strings to make her feel like he loves her when he really doesn't. He just uses her for his own advantage.
it's a classic case of Stockholm syndrome, quite
Yeah,
frankly.
pretty much.
Except for just not all the rules ain't there for it, but it's basically the same thing. There's a better word for it too, about the person that just loves being in the don't like being in the abusive relationship. They just can't get out of it because they don't want to be. They can't think of themselves away from it.
Yeah, that's very
I don't know
common.
what the exact.
From what I've seen, it's very common when it comes to a lot of abusive things, like relationship wise. There's a lot of women
Mhm.
who will get out of it and go back to it because they don't know what to do when they're not in it, and I know. I guess it
Mhm.
just fucks with your brain in whatever kind of way.
Yeah, because you get so trained mentally that this is supposed to happen today, and this is what I have to do every day,
Mm,
and when that's not a thing anymore, and if you don't have the proper help and proper channels opened up to you, you just fall back into it, and sometimes you still do.
yeah. I guess
Um,
it's like an addiction in that kind of way, like it's very similar to how addictions work, where if you're addicted to smoking or alcohol or whatever the fuck you're addicted to, it's like where it goes back into that where you can do it and you can stop, like for a certain length of time, but eventually you might fall back into it. It just kind of happens. Like even now, for me specifically, I'm going on what like 3 or 4 years, like quit. And even now, if I see someone smoking on the street, I'm like, oh, that looks like enticing. Like even
I apologize.
like, no, you're totally fine. No, but like but you know what I mean. Like it still has that enticing aspect to it. I don't know if it is like that, but I would say maybe it's similar in that way.
Now, do you think that it's a good thing with Harley that she does break off from the Joker and go straight over to Ivy when does because she does that quite often. Yes, some things where she messes around with Nightwing on occasion and certain things. Or there's even a thing where she ended up one time marrying Bruce because they had a thing to where she knew something and he knew something and they needed to get married so that the court couldn't force them to say something on each other.
Interesting.
That was
I
the
mean,
whole premise.
yeah. I mean, I would say
But
for I'd say for Harley's character because she was a sidekick, I would say she needs leadership in that way because obviously, like we know, like the Joker broke a lot of her mind. Like she still is highly
mhm,
intelligent. She still has that cycle, that all that training, all the degrees, and all the like, the training to be like highly manipulative. But
mhm,
at the same time, I think because of what the Joker broke, she kind of needs that leadership in a way. She's all not like a child, but similar to that. At least at the very beginning, when she does first move away from the Joker, I would say.
mhm. So let's see. So when they moving away, then we get to Ivy, and then when we get to Ivy, we get to the Gotham City Sirens, which is a whole nother thing, which is a whole nother group. It's the first group in a way that Harley was involved with, unless you consider Joker's gang a group, which it kind of really isn't. Because I know the HBO Harley show project the Joker in Legion of Dooms type stuff, but
No, it's
Harley
not.
was never around
He's
the
a
Joker here.
loner. I would say. I'll say that Joker is very much a loner. I'll tell you the way he's
I mean,
portrayed normally is like.
he was a member of the Legion in the old Justice League
Mhm.
cartoons because he had to be because Batman was there, so that they had to have the Joker in it.
Yep.
But um,
I would very much go with the
he's
movie Joker, where he's very much like a loner and he kind
yeah,
of has his own kind of like style, should we say.
yeah. hmm So I guess looking at her from all the perspectives we have, she does eventually transition over into being the anti-hero and almost hero type character as well, especially even with the injustice stuff you were talking about, because there is a point in that to where Bruce lets her run Brother Eye
Mhm.
in the Batcave. So she earns that much trust from at least Batman to be able to be in the Batcave and know what it is without having to be tied and blindfolded and thrown in there every time she has to go there. So
Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of how how the Joker doesn't care who's under the mask of Batman. That's an example, where it's like a
yeah,
where like regardless of who it is, it's not about the person, it's about the challenge and the fun and how he's like in like a lot of cases he's like I can't live if Batman dies type situation. Like a lot of times when Batman goes away, the Joker either goes away too or tries to get better,
mhm.
like that one comic book which I can't remember the name of. Where
Dark
he
Knight
does,
Returns.
yeah, whichever one that is. And there's one
Mhm.
where he also transitions back and he literally sues Batman, I think it is, and something like that. I don't know. There's a few of them,
Well,
where the Joker does. Which,
there there's one that got adapted into a two-part movie, which was Dark Knight Returns, where when Batman was gone, the Joker was fine until he heard, but mentally was getting fine until he heard Batman was back, and then he started becoming the Joker again, and That's the one where Batman actually ends up killing the Joker. Spoilers, people. This is talking
Oh yeah,
about
it's the
all
one
of them.
where where Batman laughs at the end. You know, where he laughs at one of his jokes and basically kills him at the end. If
Mhm.
I remember rightly, yeah, I know which one you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving
Which
away
that scene,
from, but you're moving away from
yeah,
Joker. Yeah. I
yeah,
know we're
you
getting too
keep
close to.
going
I
there.
know.
You
I
keep
got to know,
going
like
there.
talking about Harley, you have to talk about the Joker. But
You did it.
I know. But
You
like
did it.
we're not going full like thing into Joker. Need to move away from Joker. We're gonna mention him when
All
we
right.
need
Well,
to, but yeah.
let's move away from him by going ahead and validating or disavowing Harley. Uh, from a hero perspective, since she's on the line of both, I
hmm
mean, because she's one of them characters we can look at both ways. A hero perspective, we haven't seen enough of it in that perspective yet, but she's still sidekick-ish in that regard.
hmm
Villain-wise, she's sidekick all the way through in that regard, even when she's part of the Sirens and deal with with Ivy and Selena and people like that. She's still a sidekick to them because she's not in control of those groups.
That's true.
So, as a villain, Harley's technically, frankly, she's just a henchman.
I mean,
She's not.
kind of, but you can still see I would say she's still more than that because I wouldn't say she is a just a henchman because like in terms of like popularity and fan base and all of this stuff on top of that, I'll say she's kind of moved more into that territory where she's becoming more main roster, more like a character unto herself rather than something that is just a henchman. Because like a henchman die within a few seconds, generally speaking, should we say, in most
Some
scenarios.
do. Some do. Yeah, you're right. But and yes, I'm sure someone out there might want to, at if they ever wanted to say anything about any of this, say it. I know that I'm deliberately not talking about the birds of prey. I understand I'm not doing that. I know I picked Gotham City Sirens instead of the birds of prey, but there's reasons for that because I can't talk about the birds of prey without thinking about that movie, and I don't have enough comic knowledge about that group to talk about it.
Makes sense.
And that movie was not a good portrayal, in my opinion, of the birds of prey. So I don't want to validate what it says about
Mhm. Gotcha. That makes sense.
them.
So yeah,
So
what do you reckon? Like, say if you did evaluate Harley as a not a henchman, would you say she would be a good villain or good hero, or from the feats you've seen, or
I think she's subpar in both categories
I would say like what makes
just
you like
because, I mean, just going back down to it, the only thing we've ever seen her do was in a spin-off series when it comes to Harley Quinn on the HBO thing. The only thing we've actually seen her do is beat the Joker herself, which is something to do, but she
yep.
doesn't always in everything she's in beat the Joker.
No, that's true. But
It's not a
do
consistent
you
beat.
but do you ever beat the Joker? Like honestly, does
N
Batman ever really beat the Joker? If we're
I
being
guess
honest.
not. I mean, technically, Harley beat him. Just going into more spoilers, she beat him at the end of season 1 of the HBO show. You saw that. She technically
Yeah.
beat the Joker,
hmm
and Batman has not done that. So,
No,
but that's a spin-off series that's never happened anywhere else.
that's
So,
true. But I mean, like, if they're going that way in the HBO show, it's only a matter of time before that leaps into comic books and so on and so forth from that point as well.
one would think. Yeah, one would think, but it just hasn't yet. That's the
Yeah,
big thing.
I know what you mean.
And the good thing about the way DC works, it's canon no matter where it is because they got so many Earths in
Yeah.
DC's continuity that any story is considered canon depending on what Earth you're in.
And that means it's canon in some way, shape, form, whichever way you want to go
Mhm.
about it. Which means there might eventually be a comic book about it, and they might add more depth into it. And
Now, I do know there are some comic books that where they have got Ivy and Harley as a legitimate couple as well, but that's been, like we've said, that's been something they've been pushing for even way back in the '90s cartoon. They just weren't able to outright come out and say it back then because that was completely taboo back then. You couldn't even talk about homosexual relationships on the show.
that's true. At least not in that situation because it was like towards kids. So
Yeah, you couldn't even begin to talk about it.
anyway,
So that's my opinion on Harley, though. I just consider it subpar on both ends. So let's see where you are with that before we move on.
I mean, for me, like Harley's always been like a. I love the twisted psychology of it. I think that's what really draws me into her character. Because she has that kind of like both ends where she's highly intelligent, but at the same time she's all very easy to manipulate. And in terms of like hero, villains, whatever you want to go, I would say she's more. Obviously, she's obviously more anti-hero than hero. If we're going to be like blunt about it,
Oh
villain
yeah,
wise,
most
like she was always very, as you say, like more like a henchman, more like a sidekick. Someone to take the fall, so Joker wouldn't get locked up. Like that kind of a way. It was only when she started to break away from the Joker is where she wanted to have more individuality. And I think a lot of the comic books try to like they haven't put a lot of depth into changes yet. The only really big thing that I've seen is like that HBO show, like we've spoken about, and stuff
mhm.
like that, where she is kind of like in charge of her own gang, and she does beat the Joker at the end of season one, and all of those things. Where she does become her own villain. I think that's like her own like coming of age story. Like that beating that Joker is kind of like her saying, you know what, fuck you, I'm free. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. That particular show, granted, it should because she is the title character of the show.
Mm-hmm.
That particular show is probably the strongest we've seen that character be.
Yeah.
Because even in her movies, she's not quite that strong that
No.
she's done. The real one, the live action movies.
Yeah, but I wouldn't really consider those canon. That like the first one was more. I don't know. I'd say it's more softcore porn rather than a proper DC movie. But that's just my thoughts on it.
I mean, they just DC's never been able to handle live action very well.
No, I know. I mean, but
Never.
they do amazing with the cartoons. The cartoons are always really spot on. And then
And it's the opposite with Marvel usually.
yep,
Their live action are great, but their animated stuff kind of
I don't know though. I think they
sucks.
fucked up Infinity War personally. If like the comic version of Infinity War is so much better, I would say.
Mhm. Well, I'm just saying in terms of the presentation even,
Oh
it's
yeah, I
just
mean the presentation
even
wise,
if the
like
story isn't
yeah, I
good.
mean like in terms of like how they present the characters and the budget, and the way they show the powers and that type of thing. Like I think they really
Mhm.
nail their design, like for sure.
Yeah.
Compared to DC, where I don't know why, unless you're doing Batman, they really fuck it up
Yeah, somehow.
somehow. I don't know,
I'm not quite sure how.
but yeah, moving back
So,
to I guess
yeah.
to finish my thought, I guess I would say she
Mhm.
is a. I would say I don't think she's really a villain in that sense. Like she was manipulated into doing a lot of fucked up shit, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily villainous. Villainous is usually its own unique tendency that is, her own will, which I can't say that she's ever had her own will in doing it. The moment she got her free will back, she went with Ivy and she became more of an anti-hero. So
Yeah. Yeah, that I'll agree with, that she is best suited in literally the anti-hero role.
yep,
But as an individual hero or an individual villain, I still feel that she's on subpar on anyone that's leaning in one direction.
I would say just beating the Joker alone would kind of kind of counteract that point. Because beating the Joker, as we know, is a very hard thing to do, even for Batman, even for some of the smartest, most powerfulest,
Yeah.
like characters and heroes we have. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, we're each entitled to opinion. It doesn't matter either way.
Yeah. The point. Entitled to an opinion.
I know, right? As wrong as you are, it's okay. Anyways, where should
All
we
right,
where should we move on to?
I want to hit you with one of you way back in that time period too, just to kind of show our age here and see if you know anything, what you think and know about it.
Okay, we're going into Power Rangers.
Lord, fuck you, man.
I fucking knew it.
I was gonna say Lord Zed.
I know, right? Do you like how I just knew it? Damn man.
Well, fuck it, Lord Zed.
Lord Zed. Alright then. Where should we start? What about Lord Zed? Should we go into Rita first? Because obviously we had Rita before Lord Zed.
Well, we could go into Rita first, but Lord Zed is able to stand without her, especially with the more recent comics that they've done where they show his origin.
I wouldn't know about the more
That
recent stuffs, but you can obviously enlighten me on that.
well, supposedly him and Zordon were of the same race at one point in time. And you know that whole Zeo crystal type deal that they had for the going into the Zeo things?
Yep.
Zed went to get that, and apparently that's what ripped all of his skin off.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
And yeah, there's more to it than that, but that's just paraphrasing. But they went
Yep.
into a lot of his backstory with him and Zordon, and um, how they're actually pretty. They used to be fairly close, and they, as most antagonists and the guide of the heroes do, they tend to drift apart. They start close and drift away from one another. But what did you think as a child, though, of seeing Zed the first time on just seeing him?
I think like
Do
for
you remember?
the very first time when we saw him, it was basically like Risa basically became a meme character. Like I was like memes weren't a thing back then, but she was a meme character by the time Lord Zed appeared, and he actually
Yeah,
put some fear into like the story again. Like it kind of added that darkness back into it because it kind
yeah,
of
that
lost it.
outfit.
So good.
Sorry, that outfit, man. Though, for way back then, that particular outfit they put him in to show him to 10-year-olds, 11, 12-year-olds that never seen any shit like that before because their mom and dad's always telling, "Hey, go on out of the room. We're watching Friday the 13th or Freddy or some shit like that."
That's not me, man. I
Then
was
they
watching
brought.
Hellraiser at 7 or 8, man. But yeah,
Well,
I know
that's
what you
not
mean.
everybody.
No, I
It's
know.
not
Yeah,
everybody. Yeah, but he was a little bit out there,
he was. He,
appearance wise for
he was very
that age.
imaginative. Like he could very much imagine him like if you added a bit more blood into it as like a demonic character, like very demon like,
Hmm.
which for a cartoon is or not a cartoon, but like a kitchen is pushing the boundaries, especially for back in the 90s.
Hmm. And then also going on following in with that too, you got he did succeed
Mm-hmm.
in destroying the original Megazord. He
Yes, he
forced
did.
them to have to get new power
Yep.
because he was far stronger than anything that they'd been up against at that point. That and his Zord is just outstanding. If it could ever function for more than 5 minutes, it would be over in a fight. A damn dragon he's got. If it
Yeah.
could ever, but that they hype that thing up so much for it not to be able to ever do anything.
I think that was their downfall. They hype things up too much sometimes, and then they're kind of it's too powerful. We can't use it, because it would just obliterate everything, and there'd be no way to ever beat it. Type way.
Yeah. Granted, they did actually fight it way, way, way on down in the future when they did that Forever. It wasn't Forever Red that they fought Serpentera, I don't think, but uh, it was one of the specials they did. It was either Forever Red or one of the other ones that they end up actually fighting the Zord in action. Zed isn't piloting it, obviously, but um, they fight it and destroy it.
Makes sense. So, like, speaking of like Lord Zed and Rita and going that way, what about when they had the Green Ranger? The Green Ranger times of like Mighty Morphin Power. Like, what was your thoughts?
I
Like, did you like Tommy like in the roles that he did, or
I didn't like Tommy as the Green or the White Ranger. I didn't start liking Tommy personally until he was at least the Red Ranger for Zeo,
Mhm.
and then I liked him a lot when he was the Black Ranger in the last one he did, where he was the older, the mentor type dude. But I didn't care much for the evil Tommy thing because the evil Ranger concept, it works, but they got better with that in time. You know what I'm saying? Because they've retreaded on that concept a lot. I don't think that one Ranger should be able to beat five of them, regardless of what it is. I mean, they kind of hype his power up way too high for them when they get a hold of him as a teammate. He doesn't have all that power seemingly anymore.
maybe that's Lord Zed's influence though, because obviously, like as you say, Lord Zed's power is way more than they've ever dealt with. That would be the same for Tommy
Yeah.
as well. Because then again, when he's out, because then he turns into the White Ranger, so he loses the Green Ranger's ability. He loses that power, should we say? So he becomes weaker
Yep.
because obviously he's got Zordon's power rather than Lord Zed's power, and Lord Zed as a character is much, much more powerful in terms of just
Mhm.
pure raw strength or evil
Well
or whatever you want to call it.
well, yeah, I mean, Zed is more powerful than Zordon is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only because of uh, that little morph matrix thing they have that they I can't remember what the exact word is, but wherever that energy comes from for them to morphing grid, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because of that, that they're able to, even compete with anything, and that's not really a creation solely from Zordon, he just learned how to use it,
Hmm.
which is what the concept of the power coins, which Rita and Zed know how to use it because that's where the Green Ranger coin came from as well, so
Yeah.
or at least the way to use it.
Makes sense.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess it does make sense. I guess it depends on how you think of it in terms of like I'll say for the Green Ranger, I'll say it was the most interesting concept when I was a kid, of having the evil Tommy and then having the especially with the Zord as well. With this flute
Oh,
under
yeah.
the like, with the Green Ranger Zord. Probably my favourite Zord as a kid to be fair. And then obviously
Yeah,
you
the
have
Dragon Zord.
the which one is it? Where you have like the full Megazord and you have the thing it goes into and you have the wings that clip onto it that turn into like guns and
Yeah, the, Ultra Zord's what they call that thing
yeah.
usually. If you're talking about the one that has the Megazord, the Dragon Zord, and then Titanus, which is
Yeah. Yeah,
the
that one.
bronze the
Yeah.
mm. Bad I remember all these names.
I know it. I'm not good with names. Names are like they always like
Mhm.
I know what I mean, but at the same time, I'm like, well, it's like this and it's like this, and people are like, oh, it's that. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that would.
Yep.
But yeah,
So, but I think due to what he did and the impact he had when he showed up to begin with, that Zed was a good villain, but he was quickly outplayed, though. I mean, he became inconsequential very quickly, but
yeah.
his his impact at the beginning was pretty good.
I think they kind of like nerfed him too much. I think they made him more into a Rita rather than a character who was like by himself, extremely powerful. Because I
Mhm.
mean, technically, like when the Rangers do fight Lord Zed at times, when they do fight him like 1-on-1 or like however many on one, I would say at times they make him seem very weak in terms of like stuff. But if he's as powerful as he's meant to be, like no 1 or 10 Rangers should be able to stand up to him. I would say.
You're probably right because they've even went as far with one of the newer series that they put out that they brought Zed back in the live action series. They brought him
Hmm.
back, and they did it when they did the whole time traveling thing where they went and got Zed before he was given the love potion for Rita,
Yeah,
which arguably made him weaker,
makes sense.
and he just wiped the floor with everything that was out there at that time.
Hmm.
Uh, when he came back, and I never did. I don't even know how that arc ends, but I know that he he does just he's no joke at that point, like you would expect him not to be.
Yeah,
But of course, things went progress so far now that they can give him a suit that the actor can actually do something in too, or they can just CGI the suit onto the guy
yeah.
and he can do something now where he couldn't probably do that before.
No, I imagine that suit was heavy as fuck. I can imagine, when he's like back in the 90s. That's
Yeah,
all. There's no real CGI. It's all just like it's a literal suit he's wearing. So it's
yeah,
very difficult
practical
to move
effects.
in.
Real
Yeah,
suit.
it's all practical effects. It's all like makeup and heavy stuff you're wearing. So makes it. I would imagine it makes it very difficult to move. Imagine it's why he did a lot of stuff with the staff. That kind of where he kind of made that staff into like a part of himself in that way. To
Yeah.
kind of help that hindrance of movement.
Hmm. So where do you stand with him?
Me, I would say he's an amazing villain originally when he first showed up. But I think because of how they downplayed his powers once the Power Rangers, got new powers and like new Zords and everything else, they kind of nerfed him to the ground, which I don't know. It doesn't feel right to his character for somebody more powerful than Zordon. I don't think they should nerf him that much.
Yeah.
I think the writers fucked him up. I don't think it was I think as a character he's very well done. Just the writers themselves just really fucked with his character.
Oh yeah, I would agree. Because he was hyped up a whole hell of a lot. Even
Oh yeah.
Zordon hyped him up.
Yeah.
Alpha hyped him up. I mean, so and he just got downplayed majorly. for
Mhm.
no reason.
That's true.
So we have 2 and 1. I don't agree with you on the Harley, but I agree with you on the first 2. On
That's
those 2,
true.
rather.
That's true. So
So where are we going now?
I guess we gotta find a new way to go, man. I see we've done like a lot of kind of like villains so far, like more villain sides, man. Let's go for the Flash. Why not?
The Flash.
Yeah, because we need to do some heroes in here too.
I'm not a really good big fan of the Flash, but I do know a little bit about him.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Flash either, especially because of the TV show that didn't really do much justice. But
Mhm. But I can say that just from what I do know of the Flash, which is next to nothing, except for, the Flashpoint paradox stuff that
mhm.
went on. I know a little bit about that storyline, but his rogue gallery isn't really all that it's not that great,
I mean,
think about it.
if you think about it, in the TV show, it was all speedsters for the most part. That's why I was
Mhm.
like, every single villain was a speedster. I was like, but there's got to be something else, right? There's more villains that are better than speedsters that the Flash could potentially
I
fight.
mean, his best enemy, if I remember right, is Reverse Flash.
Yeah, yeah, like the one who went back and killed his parents and so, or like killed his mum, sorry, and got his dad locked up, and yeah. That's even canon in the comic books. I don't know. But
You would pick one as hard because of the fact I don't know
yeah, I know.
much.
I know I picked one that was kind of like an in between. Like a lot of people love the Flash, but I think for like me specifically, like I've never really felt like looking into him. Like I've only ever really seen him with like the Justice League, and even then he's more paired up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, anything he can do. I mean, yes, he has been said he could beat Superman in a foot race, but that's a foot race, though. I mean, he couldn't beat Superman if Superman's flying.
I always thought Superman was
'Cause that
flying and the Flash was running.
I think it was literally a foot race
Well,
when they
that
did
makes
that.
sense. That would make more sense to be fair. I mean, like Superman's flight is really fast. Like he can go to like different galaxies. So
Well, there again, I mean, they can both technically, depend on what you're looking at, they can both go through time with the way they can
yeah,
move. I mean, Superman can turn the world back
yeah.
if you go by the movie, and he can just
If we go by the movie,
fly
yeah.
around it in reverse and make the planet go backwards and somehow make time reverse because he just fucked over catastrophically the entire planet.
Yep. Like it wouldn't destroy the whole planet whatsoever. It would totally just reverse time. Yep, 100%.
So, but I guess I'm just gonna go out on a limb, though. I'll say that even though I don't know nothing about the guy, as far as Flash, since you brought him up and I have to rate him, I'm gonna have to say that he's probably all right because I've never heard of him overly losing too horribly.
I don't know. I would say he's a bad hero. I would say he's like just like from what I know of the Flash, I would say he's a if we take him out of the Justice League and put him into his own universe, right? I could
Yeah.
take him away from all the people who help him. I would say just from the things that I've seen, the people that he's hurt in terms of like using his powers for his own selfish needs, I'd say that
Mhm.
puts him into like a very grey moral area. Because he's like changed the past so many times that he goes back to different futures that are different in so many ways. So he kind of
Mhm.
fucks with his own timeline, which I think is a is grey morally. So
All right. Hmm. All right. Let's see. But yeah, I can't say nothing bad about the guy outside of what you're saying, but I don't see that all as entirely negative completely, personally. But that's just because I'm looking at it from DC's perspective
you've
to
got to think
where
of it
they're
from like say like you've got to think of from all the other characters where they're being forcibly changed even without their knowledge.
well, I mean, that could be a problem. That
Yeah,
could be a problem. But I've already given my answer. I can't go back on it.
I know. I know. I'm just giving like context.
Yeah, that could be a big thing to consider with that. Really
Mm,
could.
yeah. So yeah, where should we go? I mean, the Flash was just a quick one because I knew like Flash is kind
Oh,
of
yeah, that's funny. Flash was a quick one. Yeah,
yep.
that was real good. Clever,
Mhm.
clever. Trying to do some,
Quick
you
puns,
need
yeah.
some symbols. You need some little symbols for that one. But, let's see. If you wanna stay on the hero side
Yep.
of things, Luke Skywalker.
Okay, let's go. We can do Luke Skywalker. I know Star Wars really well, so okay.
That's why I decided to go this way, because we can talk about this a little bit.
Mhm.
Alright,
Okay, what about him?
Luke Skywalker. Uh, EU version of Luke Skywalker, by the way, not current, like the non-canon Luke, what we're talking about, where he actually went at the end and rebuilt the Jedi Order and did all the stuff that he was
Oh, so
supposed
going
to do in
into
the book.
Legends is what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
We're doing Legends
The
Luke,
Legends
not,
I'm not quite as like fully like 100% familiar with, but
yeah.
I know a little
But that's
bits and
just because
pieces, but yeah.
we haven't seen him much in modern anyway, so
No.
we saw him once or twice, but he didn't do nothing, so I don't
No.
think.
So where do you want to start with Luke? Like, do you want to go from his origins or?
When it comes to Luke, I mean, all the shit that guy went through just to find out all the shit that he did find out, and then he didn't turn to the dark side like what, Palpatine
I'm.
wanted him
I
to
mean,
do.
he basically started like being born from a corpse almost, you know, because like she was like a walking corpse at that point, you know, Padme.
Yeah, yeah, so
So you could say like he's been like going through shit most of his life.
mhm,
Because he went from, as an example, he went from obviously being born that way to being separated from his twin sister to being put onto the same desert planet that Anakin was on. I mean, forced to live with his like aunt and uncle, and
mhm, watched over by Obi-Wan.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then at the same time being dragged away the moment that C-3PO and R2-D2 first found him again.
mhm.
Though like for some reason R2-D2 never really remembers anything. I guess they got their like chips wiped actually at the end of like episode 3, but yeah.
Well, is it well, yeah, they may have, 'cause they did say something about have their mind having at least they said they had the protocol droid's mind wiped, so they meant C-3PO specifically, but
Yeah, but they didn't mention R2-D2. R2-D2 is probably like the bigger character of the two, I would say.
R2 might actually know, but it might be actually artificially intelligent enough not to say shit.
Possibly. I mean, it might think like, well, if I tell him that his dad is Darth Vader, he might like take that badly, or like he knows something like that.
Mhm.
Well, what do you think about the reveal? What do you think about the line that everybody fucks up? No, that says it wrong almost every single time they say it. No, the no, I am your
Yeah.
father instead of the Luke, I am your father. Like,
I don't know how they get that one wrong so much. I mean, I know how they do, but I don't know why they do, other than, just the classic reasons everybody gives you about it being a Mandela effect.
yeah.
But I just don't know where it got started at as to where it's wrong.
I think it's just because the reveal is that, you know, he is his father. They literally think it is like, you know, they literally think Luke, I am your father. And it's like, no, like, it wouldn't make sense even in context to what he's talking about.
Mhm.
You know, because he's having a conversation, he wouldn't just like, you know, halfway through the conversation, just rename the person again. That would be kind of weird. Right?
Yeah, because, the way that conversation went, Darth Vader had asked Luke, "Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father." Luke responds to that with, "He told me that you killed him."
Yep,
And then the response, if I'm not mistaken, is, "No, I am your father."
yep. That is true. I mean, it's something to that degree. Like it's a, and then obviously later on, like Obi-Wan, like as a Force Ghost, is like what I said was true within a manner of perspective, which is a really fucked up way of
That was
describing
a
it.
real dick move. That was a real
Yeah,
dick move, really.
yeah.
'Cause that alone could have turned Luke to the dark side right there
I'm surprised
without
it
being
didn't.
lied to,
I'm surprised it didn't, considering how
because
easily Anakin went to the dark side once he had the nightmares of Padme dying, just like his mom did, and
mhm.
obviously that was all
Well,
Palpatine, like you know, using Sith alchemy in order to poison his dreams.
mhm.
But you know what I mean?
Well, that not only that, I mean, they have said stuff about that he himself does have a lot of precognition compared to some of the other Jedi Anakin did specifically.
Yeah,
So he may have been seeing a lot of that stuff anyway, because except for the Padme one. Now his mother dying, he saw that one because that one was a thing. I mean,
yeah,
that might have tipped Palpatine off to try to fuck with him,
yeah, it did.
knowing that he could see that stuff.
Hmm.
But um, there were. I mean, so it would be stand within reason that uh, you know, he just he was his own worst enemy on that, and I don't think Luke had precognition to that degree.
It was the same thing that
Or
Harry
any
Potter did, you know, where Harry saw Voldemort Voldemort's snake attacking the Weasley. I totally forgot his name for the life of me, remember. But then
Ron.
no, the dad.
Oh, the
Well, yeah, like
I don't know
attacking
much
him,
about.
and then later on in that same book or movie, whichever way you want to go about it, like using that same
Mhm.
ability to force him to go into the Ministry and being lured into a trap, basically. You know, you could tell, you know, where other writers got influence from, from Star Wars and from things like that in that same way. You know, where you have
Mhm.
that, where you have that manipulation of dreams or visions or that kind of. But then again, that can go back towards June and everything else as well. If you want to go back into the sci-fi shit stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on with Luke.
So,
We're kind of getting way off
yeah,
topic, but
Luke. Yeah, I don't know. I thought you might have been trying to segue back around there somewhere, but I don't know where you were going. You just kept going on off there in the left
yeah,
field.
yeah, that's me.
Um, but now, not only with the deal with Obi-Wan and not telling him, but essentially lying to him, and him finding out the way he did, and then fighting against Palpatine and Vader, essentially. Uh, like I said, it's amazing that he had never turned, because even in the Legends, since I mentioned that as a specific thing, he had contemplated turning when Palpatine came back in Legends, because he did the same thing. Disney is one of the most contradictory companies I've ever seen. They don't want Legends material, but they take stuff straight out of Legends material and make it canon.
Yep.
Like Palpatine cloning himself essentially and coming back.
Yeah. But they did it stupidly.
Uh,
I mean, if you're gonna bring Palpatine back, you may as well bring him back like a whole fucking trilogy of himself, man, because obviously he needs it.
mhm. But um, there was a lot that, I mean, and he even did the same ability in Legends when he came back that he did in
Like the one where he
uh,
does the force
with the
lightning
Force
into the
Torrent.
sky.
Yes, except for it actually did something in the Legends continuity. It didn't do much in the current Disney model.
No.
But now with Luke and him rebuilding everything and actually fulfilling the prophecy, which technically was his to fulfill, it wasn't Anakin's. It was that he was going to create Luke, and Luke was going to balance the Force, not technically Anakin
No,
specifically, but
technically
Anakin was.
Anakin brought balance to the force because he's the one who killed the Emperor. Eventually, in his
Well,
own way,
yeah, you are.
he twisted, but he came back to the light. And when he came back to the light, he killed the Emperor and sacrificed his own life, which brought him back to the light side and fulfilled his
But
own
let me ask,
prophecy.
but how is the reason that it was balanced at that point is because there were no longer any true Jedi nor Sith anymore at that point.
Yeah, because
Because Luke was,
Luke
Luke,
was grey at that point.
yeah, he was not a true he wasn't a truly educated Jedi from their order's ways. So that meant both sides were gone at that point. So that would have been a balance
Yeah,
because
because
he was in
episode one,
a,
two, 3 was to show the bigotry of the Jedi. 4, 5, or
yeah.
6 was to show how the dark side took over. And then,
Mhm.
obviously, at the end, to be balanced, where there's no like bigotry or bigoted like light side, and there's no dark side, and it's just Luke rebuilding a different version of the Jedi that's more balanced within the Force.
Mhm. So yeah, that does check out. But do you think that Luke deserves the hero moniker though? Because technically, he's this hero in standing. He's technically not the hero of that story.
He's not, but without Luke, the hero wouldn't have been able to hero. That makes sense.
Yeah, he's the MacGuffin.
Yeah,
He's the he is the magical muffin button of the
the magical muffin, but damn man, yeah.
that wakes up the old Jedi. But so, what do you think? You think he is worthwhile?
I mean, like worthwhile. Well, if we take
as a
into
hero.
like, if we take into Legends as well, because we're going into Legends, so like I said, he
Oh
rebuilt the
yeah, there's a
Jedi
lot.
Order in like stronger and more balanced, and I imagine I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how he teaches, but I imagine he teaches some of the dark side as much as he does the light side. So
He kind of forbid most of that stuff, if I remember correctly. He did. He even got rid of the old styles that they had for lightsaber combat. He created his own
yeah.
that had nothing to do with the original seven forms.
Well, the original seven forms were archaic by Luke's day, should we say? Like, they are very old
Hmm.
school styles. Like, he just
Yeah.
kind of made his own style, kind of like, like I said, he just rebuilt the Jedi Order under his own image in a way. But obviously, he still had guidance
Mhm.
because he could still see the Force ghosts and
Yeah.
all of those things. But still,
Which is kind of bad and bad precedent in a way because as soon as he started doing that, the dark side started coming back too.
well, the
In
dark
all
side
reality.
is always going to come back. It's kind of like a
Well, I'm just saying
never-ending.
they're started getting more people into it. Is what I'm saying. Well,
Oh yeah,
that momentary moment, that little bit of balance they had got topped one way and then
yeah.
started going all
Well, I
over again.
mean, it would like be weird if like Luke was also talking to a lot of the dark side users, so like a lot of the dark side users could stay in the Force the same way the Jedi do. Which is kind of, you
Mhm.
would imagine they would be able to, considering that the Jedi could do it, but I don't see
Well,
why they can't.
they can because Yoda talked to one of the old Dark Lords on what is the name of their on Korriban and the series that they did. I think it's the Attack of the Clone one. That he did talk to the Force Ghost of one of them.
Oh, okay.
It's not as perfected as the Jedi version of it is, but there again, Qui-Gon was the one that perfected how to do that.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. I mean, Qui
which
Gon.
we
I
never see
mean, was like
Qui-Gon.
gone way too soon. I mean, like in terms of like characters, I wish Qui Gon didn't. I guess if Qui Gon didn't go, like Anakin wouldn't have turned to the dark side.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff for Qui-Gon though that precedes Episode One though.
Mm.
Plenty of material for him. Like he's had a Padawan that's turned on him before, being Darth Xanatos. Uh, he almost went to the dark side himself when his love interest was having some people fucking with her. Uh, so he's got some good stories for himself.
Yeah. I mean, like, I
But
would say, like, I think I would have loved to have seen Anakin go with Mace Windu rather than be left to being left to Obi-Wan. I think because Mace Windu
I
uses a
don't.
lot of the dark side energies in like a light way. I think that would have been a nice balance to it.
The only problem with that is Mace was convinced that he himself was the chosen one.
That's true, but I guess if he got to know Anakin better, if he was his Padawan, then it would have been a change. Like he would have got to know. He would have seen that it was just a scared child needing guidance and battling with the dark side as he was.
Well, to be fair, he did tell Anakin if he'd have listened to him that he would have gained his respect and trust about not even getting involved with the Palpatine shit.
Yeah.
So,
That's true, but at that point, Anakin was so scared of losing Padme that nothing else mattered at that point.
yeah.
But yeah, moving on to Luca. So, moving back away from all the other characters we could potentially talk about, um,
Yeah.
I would say like Luke wouldn't be Luke without Anakin, so you can't mention Luke without Anakin, which in its own way makes Luke not the hero of his own story, which
That's
makes
what I was,
which makes Luke not a hero. He is just the antithesis of Anakin's dark side, right?
but he's viewed as the hero.
But he's not. He's
I know.
just
I'm just
he
saying, no, he
he is
carries that.
he is viewed as it. He's viewed as the hero, but he's not. He's the culmination of Anakin's fall and rise again, basically.
So I thought I was gonna get you on this because I was gonna say based on the way that story's narrative projects itself that Luke, even though he's panned as the hero, he's not a good hero character because he isn't even the like you said he isn't the hero of his own story,
Yeah.
but everybody says he is.
And then again, Leia isn't either, considering Leia is like even more further like back than even Luke is. Like Leia could quite easily have been the same as like Luke was, but she was
And
even
it
more forgotten about in that sense.
And it took, I don't know how long it took, but I think there was something that George even said about technically the first 6 episodes are Anakin's story. They're not
Yeah,
no
I'm
one
pretty
else.
sure.
They're
I'm
not.
pretty sure he said that. Yeah. And you can see if you really watch it and you watch closely, you can see that nothing that Luke
Mhm,
does is about Luke. It's about Anakin.
mhm.
Like, yeah, he trains to be a
So I
Jedi
thought
and he trains to get power and that type of shit, but he's gonna have to kind of like turn Darth Vader back into Anakin Skywalker.
I was gonna get you, but I didn't get you.
No, you didn't get me. I know my shit, kind of.
But yeah, I don't see him. Hopefully we'll piss somebody off there. I do not see Luke Skywalker as a good hero. The only good thing Luke Skywalker is a good Joker
A good Joker. How so?
because Mark Hamill voices the Joker in the Batman cartoon.
Yeah, I know that, but like, that's like,
That's what I mean. All he is a good Joker.
is that all? Yeah, makes sense. I
I
mean,
meta commentary it
yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah, I got you. He's trying to link shit together. I got you.
Back to the
Yeah,
Joker.
back to the Joker.
Back to the
But
Joker.
yeah, but no, in terms of like
But
Star Wars and stuff like that, I'd say like it's probably like if like for like the first six, it's very very well constructed because we haven't mentioned
mhm.
7, 8, and 9, which you said we're doing all of it. We're doing the extended. No, we're doing Legends, aren't we? So,
Yeah, I said Legends because I didn't want to talk about 7, 8, and 9.
well, we got to talk about 7, 8, and 9. We got to talk about that shit show
I don't gotta talk about why he was on a place, why he was just out middle of nowhere doing nothing.
because he was scared that like the dark side was back, even though the dark side was back, and the Luke Skywalker we know would never have let the dark side come back to that degree. So, still,
Yeah, I suppose so. But
no.
I don't. I just don't see dude as a
No, I don't see him
very.
doing that. I mean, just like I would much rather have Legend Luke Skywalker than have whatever the fuck they gave us. To be honest,
So moving on from that, I mean, you anything else you want to bring up about Luke specifically that um, could redeem him to somebody that would disagree with us about him being a good hero? Actually,
I mean, he's a
like
good
he never gives
person. I
up.
mean, like I'm not saying he's not a good person or he's not good at like what he does or he didn't achieve what he went to achieve, but he didn't do it for his own goals nor his own reasons. He didn't even understand the reasons why he did what he did. Does that make sense?
Except for just to go against the Empire, basically. So
Not even that. Like, I don't think he even like really wanted to go against the Empire. Like, he just wanted to go like save his father. If his father wasn't Darth Vader, he would have saved his father. If he was a plumber, or if he was a slave on another planet, it wasn't about good or bad at that point. It just so happened that Darth Vader was his father, and that made Luke change his whole perspective. And like, that's where the prophecy fully like goes all the way around.
mhm,
But yeah,
I
I mean,
can.
like, I mean, like, I don't
I
think
can
there's like a redeemable thing about him. Should I say? I don't think it's a like. I don't think it's
except for
about redeeming
maybe,
him. So good.
not giving up. He does not do that. I mean, he makes that a point, but
But he does give up. What you
it
want about when he's getting electrocuted by the Emperor? He gives up.
well, in a way, I guess if you want to, there's a lot of people that argue that's not giving up about asking
No way,
Vader to
that's
help.
giving up. Like, I mean, like, if Ray can like obliterate the Emperor that easily, like, obviously Luke can do it too. Just cause,
Yeah, and
just to be pedantic about the like new shit.
yeah, because I mean, there's not a Jedi alive that would have let Palpatine live. He's too dangerous. I mean, Yoda even tried to kill him, so that says a
Yeah.
lot for that.
I mean, like, there was no like bringing Palpatine to any side, man. He was born like to the dark side almost, man. Because he's born
Yeah.
basically into politics, and then like that became his whole spiel. And then obviously once he found his force abilities, he like used that to become infinitely stronger. So
Now, I would like to just going off that. I really would like to see a Plagueis movie. I would
yeah,
if
me
they
too.
could do it
I
right.
just don't want Disney to do it. That's the only thing. Because Plagueis
Yeah.
was in that new show, you know, that new thingy show,
They
The
actually
Acolyte.
they actually put Plagueis in that.
I haven't seen it all the way, but I know Plagueis was in it.
I have to go look at the scene that they showed him and see if he's actually a moon like or mun like he's supposed to be.
He probably is. They probably got the race and stuff right, but I just don't want Disney to do Plagueis. I wish like any other person, I'd even rather Star Wars theory do it than Disney do it, to be honest.
Well, they did do good with their little Vader thing they did.
Yeah, he's still recording like part two right now, isn't he? Like he's
Mm.
doing the new studio stuff
I
and getting it
haven't
going.
kept up with him sadly lately.
Yeah, and yeah, he's getting part two done. I think he's doing it animated. I don't think he's doing it as a live action. He's doing it more animated stuff for two, three, etc.
Mm. It'd be easier that way on him probably,
Yeah, probably.
financially.
Yeah, I mean he's still putting
But
like hundreds of thousands of like dollars into it. I would imagine.
oh, yeah. It's just easier than doing stuff with, like, real sets and shit like that.
Yeah, that's true.
But, um, so we've closed off on Luke, so, I mean,
Hmm.
there's nothing we can say about him until we get into EU stuff. That's when he really becomes his hero stuff, when he starts dealing with the new uprising and stuff, but sometimes he kinda takes back seat, to a lot of the other stuff going on there with his son that comes up and does shit, and
I'm not as like versed in the extended universe stuff, so I can't really comment too much on it.
I ain't gonna try to get into it with you because of that alone. Because all you could do is either sit there and nod and hope that I'm right, and that's not a good position to be in.
Especially when we're trying to argue points about
Yeah,
certain things. So.
yeah.
Okay, moving. Say if we stay
So
within like say between 1 and 6.
mm,
Say if we go into what about Darth Maul? Because obviously he went into because like he didn't die at the end of episode 1, as we know. So
yeah.
let's go into like villains. Let's go into Darth Maul. Let's see like was he a good villain? Was he a good antithesis? Like was his like whole arc through the Clone Wars like worth it?
No, it wasn't worth it because it made the scene of Obi-Wan beating him after Qui-Gon was killed mean nothing when he came back, in my opinion. I mean, yes, it could still mean something, but it took a lot of the gravity of that scene out when he survived that.
I would say it added more gravity. I would say it made it where say like where Obi-Wan thought like he was dead, but when Darth Maul was alive again, I would say that would add more gravity because it's like he didn't even get revenge for his former master. He just
Mm,
almost like not let him live, but you know what I mean. He didn't check on the body. You know, like he didn't fully check he was dead.
yeah.
Because I mean, the only
He was
reason Darth
living
Maul survived was because he was his anger kept him alive, basically. So,
yeah. Which is a very big cop out for that because if Maul can do that, any of them could do it.
yeah, I would say that's
Because
why
all I mean,
it would make sense that that Palpatine within reason could do it.
mhm,
But then again, I think the only reason Palpatine died is because he was so focused on his anger and his like lightning. You know, because he was basically wanting to kill Luke with it.
mhm.
He let his guard down for Vader, which was his only downfall. That's not.
Which I still don't understand how he wasn't able to get out of that deal with Vader at that point, other than the fact he was a very decrepit old man. That might have had a lot to do with that, but
I wouldn't say decrepit man. I say he like he's always had that face though. You know, the face that like that like deformed version of himself. That's his true form, if that makes sense. You know, that's his twisted
oh,
true.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just
Like
saying he was literally, like, well over 100 years old in the, sequel trilogy,
do we have to remind you about
or the
Yoda?
main trilogy.
Yeah, do we have to remind you about Yoda here, or like?
Yoda isn't human, Palpatine was.
That's true, but I mean, the Force is kind of like the Force changes. Yes, if it was a normal, regular, non-forced up human, sure, but
But I mean, they even said that Qui-Gon was nearing his time of not being able to do his own style he did anymore because of his age, and Dooku was only as good as he was because he used Form 2, which is deliberately designed to fight lightsaber combatants. That's what Makashi was for. So an 80-year-old man like Dooku was able to still go, but, um both Yoda and Qui-Gon used Ataru, which is a very physical, very high demanding, style, and Qui-Gon was losing the ability to do that a lot. It was actually in the novels that he was having issues with that because of his age.
yeah,
So,
But then again, you're talking about two different sides of the Force.
Yeah. I'm just saying Palpatine's age still had to have had some form of an effect on him,
I
though,
wouldn't
even if
say
it
so.
wasn't.
I wouldn't mean just from thinking about it. I would say like Palpatine in some ways is right that having too many Force users kind of like negates your ability to use the Force, because it's split across
Yeah.
many beings. So the fact that it was
Yeah.
just him and Vader, basically, or probably a couple of others with trainees, recruits, like if you go into Legends, there's like a whole bunch of
Well, I mean,
underlings and stuff. But you know what I
not
mean.
even with Legends, though.
Hmm.
With the Vader comics, there's people that Vader always has to fight that Palpatine is training to try to kill Vader.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
And
there's always like others in the dark side, but in terms of like back then, or at least with the light side, that's why
mhm,
Luke was also so powerful, because he was the only light side user. Like though that was the reason why he learned so quickly, because the Force was only there with him. If that makes sense.
mhm,
It would be the same with Palpatine. Would be another reason why you could say Palpatine would be weaker, because he got so overconfident within the Force that he trained too many people. He had too many people like draining off that dark side, because like the Sith believe that the rule of two. With there can only be like a master and an apprentice. The more you break that, the more you share and separate that dark side energy. So
mhm, 'cause that was Darth Bane's deal. He instituted that way back
yeah,
when.
yeah. Palpatine wanted to go into a rule of one where it was him forever, and then it would be Darth Vader under him forever.
Mhm. Which, I mean, uh, Vader's injuries made it to where he would never be as powerful as what he could be anyway,
That's true.
because he didn't have as much living tissue anymore to use as a conduit, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah,
And he was weak to light.
he kind of nerfed his being the chosen one abilities just from the lava. So
Mhm.
because
Well, not
because
just the lava, just trying to jump over Obi-Wan didn't help him any either.
oh yeah, no, I know that, but I mean in terms of at that moment, if Obi-Wan hadn't have sliced him in half, or sliced
Mhm.
part of him off, should we say, then he was already much stronger than Palpatine at that point. With his dark side
Mhm.
energy on top of how powerful he was already stronger
Yeah.
than Palpatine. So
Yeah, and the saddest part about that is too, if you probably already know this too, but if you look into it uh, deeply enough, it's actually said that Obi-Wan used the dark side technique to even hit Anakin because they're not allowed to do that.
oh
The
really?
move that he used, yeah, the move that he used to, uh, I don't even know what the proper word is for cutting three limbs off. There is a word for that, I'm sure. Uh, but whatever that word is, that is not a Jedi maneuver. It's actually a dark side move.
Oh shit! I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Does that make Obi-Wan more grey, I guess?
At that point, he was, but um,
I guess he was on the brink, because it was like he was killing his what would be his Padawan, his best friend, his who he viewed as a brother, and
yeah.
yeah. So I get it.
So there's been more than one time that Obi-Wan's used dark side abilities to do that. Do supposedly get wins. I mean, the move he used on Maul, for example, is also a dark side ability.
That's interesting. I guess it's in the heat of passion. I think that's what really
Mhm.
sells it for Obi-Wan. I think when Obi-Wan
Yeah.
gets because there was a point where Obi-Wan was even willing to give up being a Jedi for that woman he fell in love with as well.
Hmm.
Where he was almost on the brink of wanting to do that until I don't remember exactly what happened. I think she got killed in some way or something like that.
Uh,
But yeah,
so,
moving very off topic to the Darth Maul topic we started on.
well, I circled back. What are you talking about? I circled back around when I talked about using the dark side ability to cut
Yeah.
Maul in half.
Oh yeah, you're
I circled
right. You did kind of. I know what you mean.
But
Um. I know. So like for me, I love Darth Maul as a character. I think like his like reveal in episode 1 was like one of the coolest things I've
No, that was
seen.
good. That
Yeah.
was good, yes.
But in terms of what they did after that point, the fact they kept him alive, the fact they made him go through the whole Clone Wars just to die again, like against Obi-Wan at the very end. You know, like the
And
older Obi-Wan, you know, where he's the where he goes to use his original style, but then he goes into that proper old man Obi-Wan style at the end of the Clone
mhm.
Wars.
And then, both him and his brother weren't able to do anything to Palpatine, which they shouldn't have been able to anyway, but
No, Palpatine's too much
because
for most people, I would say. There's only a few who could really match Palpatine, like Yoda was one of them, Anakin was one of them, and Mace Windu arguably, not even arguably, was a match for Palpatine.
Mace Windu was technically the only one that did match him, because regardless of what's said, Yoda admitted he lost.
Yeah. No, like, Mace Windu won. Mace Windu got betrayed by Anakin. That's literally what happened.
Yeah,
Because,
and
like,
Mace
but
Windu was
but that's because of
the
Mace Windu's style as well, because he uses the dark side against the dark side users. That's his whole
it al
training.
it also helps that he was literally and canonically the best swordsman that the Jedi had. He was
Yeah.
better than Yoda at lightsaber combat, and
Mhm.
Dooku probably as well,
Yeah.
because he's literally listed as the best one they had.
Which brings me back to
So
my
that
point,
did
like, how crazy would it have been with Anakin with Mace Windu, though? It would have been insane.
yeah, it probably would have been. I
And
don't
I
know if Anakin could have beat Windu just because of I'd say experience would have,
no,
won over.
I think like lightsaber combat, Mace Windu's winning that, I would say, quite easily.
Yeah, I would say so too.
I would say if it wasn't for Obi-Wan's betrayal, you know, where his emotions are so high,
Mhm,
then there's no way Obi-Wan would be beating Anakin in that state. But I think because obviously he taps into the dark side slightly, you know,
mhm,
to obviously get that win, like you say. So,
but,
but yeah, moving on to like final thoughts on Maul, I guess. So that we're not, we could go all over Star Wars and talk about so many other things, but
when you talk about one thing in Star Wars, you gotta talk about 5 others because they're so connected to each other. I mean, you
yeah,
gotta mention all the little mentioning one thing that happened over here means you gotta talk about these other 4.
mhm,
So,
that's very true.
yeah, but go ahead.
But yeah, I think
Final
For Maul, I think his opening was sick, like I said, and then they kind of just messed with his character too much. They made him into too much of a. I know they kind of like made him too weak. I would say, you know, because he started off as like powerful and intimidating, and a villain that you were like hoping to see more of. And by the
mhm.
end, it was just you felt sorry for him. You felt just like his whole life was just pathetic at that point, which I don't know. I don't really like that in the character. I prefer my characters in this type of story to die at the height of their power. You know, where they get
Mm.
defeated in like an epic way, or it's a Venom. They're meant to have that epic like ending, and I guess he kind of did, but he got beaten in like one strike, man. So like, I don't know.
Well, that's what most lightsaber fights are. They are over in one actual hit. I mean,
Yeah, I know, but no, but I mean, it wasn't even like a proper duel. It was like a one strike. There wasn't even any like defending or deflection. Really, it was just really
yeah.
just. It was just Obi-Wan's skill,
Mhm,
basically, just like taking over.
mhm,
That same skill that got him destroyed by Darth Vader, but you know,
mhm.
hmm which never made sense to me. But either way,
What, that Vader was able to come back and beat him? Or that he was able to come back and beat Vader?
the fact that he beat Darth Maul so easily, but Darth Vader smashed Obi-Wan so easily. That is the only bit of like the episode 4 that I don't really see because technically Obi-Wan's a lot older, but he's a lot wiser. He's a lot more thoughtful in his like movements, and
Mhm.
obviously like
So you're
Darth
not
Vader is like so good.
so you're not talking about the Kenobi fight that they had with each other on the Kenobi series. You're not talking about that.
No, I'm talking about the actual episode 4.
Okay. So, but Obi-Wan was ready to just go because he wanted to make a point, I think, too. Because can we really say that Vader killed him? I mean, he didn't really hit him.
I mean, he technically hit him. I mean, he disappeared, but he technically hit him.
because we've seen the lightsaber cut some dude's hand off in the damn Mos Eisley Cantina.
That's true, but because everyone already knew about that technique to basically become a Force Ghost, he just did that basically. I think so.
Mm.
No, whichever way. I don't think it's quite explained how to do that, but that technique.
I mean, Vader clearly didn't know what he did, or he wouldn't have been stomping around on the cape trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Because that is kind of how that played out. If they played it off, Anakin didn't have no fucking clue what just happened.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say whether like that Darth Vader really struck him down, but I would say, regardless of what happened, if that strike hit that to death blow, regardless of
Oh yeah, if that hit, it would have been over,
yeah,
regardless. But that's 90% of any of those attacks. If they hit, it's over anyway. So
yep, that's true. What about you? What about
okay,
you and Darth Maul? Like, what's your final thoughts, opinions?
I like the tone that they tried to set with him, but like I said, it still makes it into a thing to where I don't like him being brought back. To me, it made, like I've already said, it just deadens a little bit of the impact of Qui-Gon's death on that. Even though, yes, you can come back and say that it adds a revenge thing to it back to when he comes back again, but all it does in a way, if you really want to be funny, is prove that that move that the move that Obi-Wan did to both people, one when he had the low ground and then when Anakin had it, like the reverse situation, it didn't kill either one of them. He failed at killing two people with, quite frankly, the same scenario,
Yep, he did.
except for, but he can kill a gigantic robot that a bug man, or used to be a bug man anyway. But he can't kill two somewhat humanoid creatures.
No, because they're both
That,
powered by the dark side, so it's kind of catch-22 in it in that way.
but yeah, so
So yeah, I think we'll do one more.
I
I
just,
I think we should do one more. To be fair, so good.
you think we should do one more?
Yeah, I think one more should end it perfectly. But I think this one was kind of like we went too much off topic. I would say. Like, yeah, I think
Well, it's hard to do that in the Star Wars universe.
I
It's
know.
easy to go all over.
I know. It's easy to talk about everything. Kind of.
All right, well, let's go bring it back to something that is. This might make you do even one more after this because this one will be pretty
Okay.
probably short and easy.
Hmm.
Bloodline Roman Reigns,
Yeah.
specifically Bloodline Roman Reigns, because that's the only heel Roman that there is.
Hmm.
So, does he make to you, for what story and show that they try to project in their own little self-contained universe? Is he a good villain for what he is, for the way he's written and portrayed, or was? I don't know what he does say because he might not be that way now.
Um, I mean, from what I saw of like Bloodline Roman, I would say he was a very good villain. I would say he portrayed it quite well. I mean, like he's had his like teething pains. We've seen like the John Cena literally ripping the shit out of him because he can't do much on a microphone at one point. But he got past that. He got to that point where he finally managed to get to that. They were trying to propel him to greatness, and they actually, I think they basically got there. I think they got him to that point where he was that head of the table, where he was that the dude who owned the WWE or whatever craziness they were trying to portray. I think where he was the top dog. He was the nobody's above me type shit. Not even the producers or the writers or anybody. They just. I think it worked. I think like it took a long time to get him there. I think it like took a lot of build up. I think at first it didn't work. I think it took
Mhm.
him going through his cancer and everything to make him into where he got that crowd behind him, whichever way he went, to
Yeah,
really build that character up into what he became, which by the time we get into Cody Rhodes and all of those things, it's like I think the ending to his reign was perfect because it wasn't just one person, it was a lot of the roster coming in to help as well. So I
yeah.
think overall, or overarchingly, I would say he was a very good villain because I remember back in the COVID days where it was Kevin Owens um versus Roman Reigns, and I really wanted like Kevin Owens to win. So like that
Oh,
to me marks like a very good villain because you're rooting against him. You
oh
know,
yeah.
and even when he's
It
cheating, even when he's going all those ways, he's still like like
yeah,
you can
you
so good.
sorry. You keep
No,
going.
you're fine, you're good.
I'm just agreeing. I'm just
No.
agreeing with you right
I
now.
know you're fine.
But, now, any villain that's written in a way, if you what people would probably like to say, what makes a good villain is it make it to where they're cool or they're relatable or something like that. That usually isn't what in my opinion, and this could have been at the beginning of the show to say this much from both of us. For me, what makes a good villain isn't them being cool, it isn't them being relatable, it's them playing the role that they're written as, which is the villain, which means you need to not want to see them succeed.
Yeah,
Even if they do succeed, you need to want you want to see how they're going to fail and you want them to do it.
yeah,
Now, if they don't, then that's fine because you don't like that because that's what you're not supposed to like
no.
the villain winning. You're not supposed to like them continuing to move on up the totem pole continuously until they're finally knocked off. And sometimes it ain't in the way that you want it to be. I mean, I can't say that I wanted Cody specifically to be the one to beat Roman, but I don't know who all else could have actually done it at this point in time either, based on
I
who they
mean, the rest
have,
of the
except
roster kind of failed at doing it already. Like they kind of used up
Mhm.
everybody else that they had.
Yeah.
Especially
Well,
when
I
you
mean,
bring The Rock into it, especially like with that one where, even off air, like The Rock was still beating the fuck out of Cody. I know it's still all scripted, it's still all
oh
that
yeah,
that
but we
kind
got
of a
we're
way.
talking about it in. I mean, we're talking about wrestling, so we know it. Just go ahead. We know it's a scripted show,
Yeah, we know all that,
so
but I mean, like, like with The Rock bringing in that angle, even though he did try to ruin it, I'm not going to lie. I think
oh, he did.
the way they twisted it eventually, where it went into, you know, it made Roman even bigger because it was the Roman and the company. It wasn't just Roman himself.
Mhm.
They kind of made it bigger because like The Rock basically like owns part of TKO, right? Or like he's
Yeah.
on the board or
Well, he's on
whichever
the
way.
board.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's on the board.
which means he's a majority shareholder. I would imagine. Like that's like what being on the board means. I would say in some way,
Something
shape,
like that, I'm
form.
sure.
Yeah, he probably owns some
He might
percentage of it. Or yeah,
I'm sure he has some say so,
yeah.
regardless.
And yeah, he does that. So it makes The Rock not just The Rock. It makes him, as he says, the final boss because he is the company. He is the
Mhm,
political, or not political, the business power behind what is WWE as much as it is anything else. It's why he could
mhm.
swear. It's why he could do things that most of the wrestlers can't do because nobody can tell him that he can't do it.
Alright.
And that added onto Cody's, no, onto Roman Reigns' whole arc. It made him into that power that was above everything. Because it was his whole family was the business itself,
Yeah.
and Cody was the underdog. It didn't matter who the person to beat him was, as long as somebody was going to beat him. Like if somebody wouldn't have beat him there, it would have been an impossibility for him to ever lose that Universal Championship. So
Yeah, it would have been impossible, uh, for him to lose if he didn't lose to Cody at that point because the only other person that could have beat him at this point that was coming up would have been Braun Breaker. That would have or Gunther.
yeah,
And they wouldn't have wanted to keep the title on him long enough for it to be Breaker or Gunther to do it, because it would have took another Royal Rumble to come around to where one of them is the one that wins for that to happen, and they couldn't have business wise they couldn't have kept that belt on Roman for another full year. It would not have worked anymore after so long.
no,
I mean, people were already getting sick of not seeing him wrestle most of the time anyway, even if he was doing what he was doing. It would have never worked for another full year.
no. I mean, like as Cody said, like or rightfully said, man,
Mhm.
he's like trying to challenge a champion who's not really a champion because he's never there. Like he is like he's a champion
Mhm.
who's not really on his throne. He only wrestles a few times a year. Like, but obviously Roman has his health to think about because obviously he's gone through a lot of shit. So it's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword in that sense. So
Yeah, so excuse me, as a actual villain though, written wise, he's better than a lot of other shows that I've seen in a while. The way that he's written is always being the one on top of everything, and even when he's gonna fail, he has his stooges that come in and bail him out, and then he
Yep.
wins.
Yep.
Almost loses, gets to that point to where you think it's finally over. This person's finally gonna do it. Oh, Sammy's gonna do it, or Kevin's gonna do it, or
Mhm.
Seth, or
Yeah.
and never happened. Um, and should have happened. A lot of the should have happens, but never happened.
Yeah. But I think it was cool how they
Uh,
did like I mean it's kind of a cliche, but you know how a lot of the roster format and so on came to help as well. I think like it was cool, but it was like I don't think it was needed. See, what I would have loved for like the whole locker room, just to be out on Cody's side and just to be The Rock and to be Roman and just have everything except those two just around them. I think that would have been amazing. But that's
mm,
just my 2 cents on it.
well, that would have worked if he didn't already have a group. Now, what do you think about them transitioning? I know it's just going right off of Roman in a way. I just want to ask why we have on this topic transitioning that role more to Solo now, though, or have you got kept up at all to where you know that he's even the one doing it now?
I mean, I know who he is. I don't know what he's trying to do. I'd say he's a much
They're
worse like version of whatever Roman was, basically.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they figure out what they're doing with that because they're still trying to run that storyline without Roman being
I
uh
know Roman came back.
heavily.
I don't know Roman came back very recently, but I don't know what he's doing,
He's
how he's
back, but
doing, or
he ain't doing nothing. He's just showing up here and there at this moment.
okay.
He ain't done
So he's not
nothing
coming
really
back
yet.
to be like the head of the table. He's just
I
back.
think he's trying to get that role back, but he hasn't gotten that far yet. Because Solo's kind of trying to do that and take it from him, which is funny because the one person that when Roman was the leader of the bloodline that never won matches decided to finally say that wins and losses matter, and now he's suddenly the fucking leader of the group. That's just irony in its own right when it comes to writing sense there. It's like this dude's never won, but now he's the leader.
Yep, that's the one.
But
I mean, I would have
but
rather it be any of the other bloodline than like somebody we didn't really know. You know, somebody fresh face coming in almost. I don't
mhm.
know.
But yeah, I do agree though that Roman's probably the best heel they've booked and written in probably at least 5 or 10 years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my personal favorite has to be the Fiend, just because that I loved that whole gimmick storyline, etc. Like Bray was a genius in his own right, but in terms of like longevity, like Roman held it for a very long time. He carried that company through COVID. He carried them through. The same with all the roster back then when they had to do WrestleMania without a crowd. That I can't
Oh
imagine that
yeah,
as like a wrestler.
it's
Like
it's sickening to not
yeah,
have anybody around.
where it was silent. It was dead silent, and it was just like it was eerie. Like I can't even watch those WrestleManias back because it's just so eerie to like watch
Mhm.
it.
I mean, even practicing matches, from my perspective, practicing a match without a crowd and just you and the guy, and you're trying to just say, "Well, can we actually do this, or can we actually do that, or whatever you want to, just seeing what all the two of you can do together, and then figure out what you're going to do in an actual show." It doesn't feel the same when you don't have people out there to play off of, because that could change your entire fucking idea of what you wanna do based on what they're doing.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there's been a whole like
it
storylines that have changed based on how the crowd reacted to certain things. Like
I mean, what good
where it was like The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. Like
I
where
was
it was
fixing to
meant to
say,
be
Rock.
one way, but they switched it because they saw the way the crowd was going.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Rock and Hogan, where Hogan was supposed to be the heel and
Yeah,
Rock was supposed to be the face, and the crowd wasn't gonna allow that to happen, and they were smart enough and experienced enough where they saw that and they fixed it immediately, called a really big audible, and made it the way the crowd wanted to see it. And that was one of the better Hogan matches of that time in his career, um, because of that.
Yeah,
And because, I mean, let's just be real. I mean, Hogan's a piece of shit as a human being. I mean, he
yeah.
really is. But he knows how to work a crowd. That's the thing he does. That's his,
That's what he's always
he
done.
knows
That's
how
why
to.
he was so popular back in the day, because he just knew how to work it. He knew what they
Mm,
wanted, and he gave it to them, and so props
mm,
to him. Regardless of how shitty of a human being he actually is, it's just,
yeah,
man knew what he was doing, so.
yeah, he knew what he was doing. And but you talk about the Fiend. I guess my favorite heel. It's really old school stuff. But
Oh, I mean recent memory. I'm not talking of all time, I'm just talking recent memory, so.
I thought you said of all time.
No,
You
no,
said
no
that.
recent memory. Like, the Fiend is still, like,
Well,
pandemic times.
if we're gonna go recent time, then the Fiend would have to be still on that list
Mm-hmm.
for me. Even though he was kind of in the middle, he was never truly a heel because he was in that middle ground where the Undertaker used to sit a lot of the time, to
Yeah,
where even if they wanted to put him as a heel, the crowd wouldn't allow him to be one.
no. I think, like, because of that, I think that's why I love Makai and Kai, because I saw him as the next iteration of not quite the Undertaker, but a version, or something that could be similar to it. Because obviously the Undertaker, like, has been getting an age. He's like he could only do one show a year. He had to, like, peak for that one show and try not to fuck it up, basically. Which is never a good
Yeah,
thing to do,
and
but
no, it's not, especially when you get in there with people that are just as old as you are sometimes. That's when it gets real bad.
yeah.
Because he could have died in that match he had with Goldberg. Let's just be real. He could have died really easily
Yeah,
if
the
if
same
those
with the
two.
one with Brock Lesnar, where he got a concussion and doesn't remember it. Where the streak
Yeah,
ended.
yeah, yeah. And I watched that back a few times. I still I think I know where it happened, but I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, the Undertaker
Uh,
doesn't even know where it happened. Like, he's watched it back
I
loads of
know.
times as well. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. So
I mean, I think I can see where it may two places it could have happened, but I don't know for sure
I would imagine it
which.
was probably from the the suplexes. From like back to body, whatever the hell you want to call it.
It's called German suplex.
Yeah, that one.
But where I think that it actually occurred myself is when they were outside the ring, and Brock had his leg and tripped him,
Mm-hmm.
and he fell back because I think if I remember right, I think his head touched the barricade
Mm-hmm.
or bounced off of the mat on the concrete, but his head did not go down smoothly. Something happened along the way,
Makes sense.
but um, I don't. That might not have been. Hell, he might have got it more than once, realistically, in that
Yeah.
matchup. You never know.
Well, I mean, like, a lot of the, like, once he was concussed, I think a lot of the ways he took the moves was wrong as well. I think he kind of made things worse on himself after that point.
Well, I mean,
Where
Brock
he
had to save
wasn't
him.
quite like he wasn't quite there. If that makes sense.
Brock had to save him once. I don't. I mean, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm going to be talking about when I talk about it. But the second time he went for old school warriors, walking on the rope, Brock had to rip him down onto his shoulders for the. I mean, because if he didn't, he was going to fall out the other side of the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, you could tell the match was just botched in so many ways. Like, it was like the worst way for him to lose his streak as well. That was like pre-planned, obviously, for him to lose, but like it was
Yeah,
the
it was
worst way for
planned
it
for
to
him to
happen.
lose,
Hmm.
but but yeah. So we both agree though that Roman was good.
Yeah, Roman was a very good heel or a very good villain, because it made you want to hate him, and I think that's what makes a villain, especially in wrestling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it should be in any villain story. You should want to in anything. You should want to see the villains lose if
Not me.
they're
I
good.
always want to see the Joker win. I always like seeing the Joker win. So, don't know.
Well, you in this damn joke.
I know. I mean, we'll get to it eventually. Maybe like episode 2,
Mhm.
episode 3, 4, somewhere around there, whichever way we get. Because
This could go on for a while.
I
Yeah,
know
this could go on
we've only just
for.
started
I
technically.
mean,
We've only just like
we,
broached wrestling, man. How we've approached one wrestler out of the thousands, well not thousands, hundreds of
yeah,
wrestlers we could broach. So
we broached that. I mean, we didn't even get into video game villains. We
we
didn't
didn't
get
even get into
into.
anime.
Well, no, we didn't. We started to go off into Dragon Ball for a minute, but we
Yeah, that was just
quickly
me making
killed
the
that
good pun
off.
or making the good comparison, but still,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I think we should call it here.
We have covered more villains though than we have heroes. I will say that.
Yeah, we have, but like we'll just cover who we want to. We'll do it like this, where it's off the cusp. There's no research really. We're just talking from our
The,
experience and what we know, and I think it works better this way. Because I think if it's too researched, it's too
it's
much.
robotic.
Yeah,
It's fucking robotic. It's fucking it sounds forced if you do it when it's researched because you can't just sit here and bullshit about it. And I mean, if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. It's like what we did with the Flash. We
yeah,
neither one of us know much about the Flash, evidently. So we didn't spend a lot of time there, so we don't look like fucking idiots talking about a character we don't know shit about.
that's true.
Um, but
Yeah, I think we should call it that. I think we should like wait for the next one to do more heroes, more villains. Well, not the next one, but still.
well, the next one of this is
Yeah,
what
the
you
next one
mean.
of this.
The next one of this, because we're definitely the next one that comes after this. We do have something that's planned for that.
Mm-hmm.
That might
It,
interest some people out there.
it
It's going to be a watch along kind of thing.
yeah, it links nicely into like one of the topics we were talking about during this. So.
Hmm. So um, have that to look forward into. And you've recently done one of the interviews that with the Hell Let Loose
Yeah, with Sam.
singer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he wanted to be referred to by his name or not, because
I
as y'all
imagine,
probably.
I imagine he does. That's kind of his name. So.
Well, some people, Kai ain't my name, and Makai ain't your name. So just,
Makai's my name.
I
What are you on
mean,
about? I don't have a real life name. Don't know what you're on about. But yeah, man. I'll let you end the show. You
but yeah.
started it, so
Oh,
I'll let you end it.
oh, you let me end it? Well, I didn't think we did it that way. I thought we switched that back and forth a little bit there.
It's okay.
Well, anyway, thank everybody for making it this far in this with us. We'll be coming to you, like we said, next time with a watch along episode for an event. And hopefully that'll be something that y'all might find entertaining or maybe even educational in some ways if you're interested in the topic that it'll be without going into a lot of detail. Um, this is Makai, this guy that's annoying over here that
That's me.
I tried to rope up with some stuff. He saw through it. And I'm Kai, a guy that'll probably have a picture put on my face at some point to make me look like some Canadian country singer that I don't know how to say the name of. Sorry out there to you guy that I don't know your name, but there's an ongoing joke about that.
Mm-hmm. See previous episode.
Well,
Yeah.
we will catch you guys a little later on, same time next week.